viewers, it is Jasmine here with Paula and Andie, and we are going to be filming today at Jonathan Edwards Winery in North Stonington. You guys have got to check this place out. It is phenomenal and the wines are delicious. But stay tuned because we're actually going to be tasting and finding a lot more about wine. And for those of you who don't know anything about it, today is your lucky day. We will actually get a bunch of lessons from Andie. Stay tuned, guys. Woohoo! Yeah, cool.
Where we are now is the tank room. This is where we do a lot of different things with the tanks. This is where, when we're harvesting, it's where we're fermenting wines as new juice and new grapes are coming in from the vineyard. This space is our barrel room. So this is a lot of barrels that are aging wines. On the weekend, the guys try to make it all nice and tidy, so it's pretty for our weekend visitors. Yeah. We do a combination of Connecticut and California grown wines. We do 4 different varieties locally, primarily white wines, things that work well in the climate here. We do 3 whites and 1 red. Those we do estate grown, processed, everything here start to finish. With our California wines, we do something a little bit unique for the East Coast. It's very common in California, but we contract with different growers. We oversee the harvests, we do the crush and the fermentation in California, and we barrel age and bottle everything here. Right. We're really taking advantage of both climates and hopefully the best from each side. Bi-coastal, we like to call it.
Cool. Is there a particular wine that, since it's from Connecticut, that is just a favorite? Like, is it more preference towards reds or white?
Generally white wines. If you go around to lots of wineries in the region, you will find several reds. It's just a little more picky and choosy on what's going to work in that window of our growing season. We only do 1 red wine. It's a Cabernet Franc. You'll find that at a few other wineries here near us too. Ripens in a little bit shorter season. It's lighter bodied. It's not that big, heavy, chewy kind of red we do from out west. White wines in general ripen in a shorter amount of time. So our others are a Chardonnay, we do a Pinot Gris, we do a Gewürztraminer. In general, you're looking at things that are going to ripen in that shorter amount of time. Well, what we do is traditional, what's called vinifera varietals. If you aren't familiar with that term, you can think of them as kind of your regular European kind of grapes, Cabernet Franc, Chardonnay, things that you recognize as old traditional styles. We keep with that. It limits a little bit more of some of those options, but that works for us. That's kind of the style we go for.
What would be a unique wine that you produce?
I think something that we do that's maybe one of our favorites and definitely a little bit of a crowd favorite is our local Connecticut grown Gewürztraminer. A lot of times people expect that to be a sweeter wine. Oftentimes if you go out and purchase one or taste them, they are, but it's also something that can be made in lots of different styles. We make it more as a dry wine. It's something that we grow. You do see it in this region a little bit, but it's a very fun wine. It's something that's floral and a little spicy. For what we grow locally, that's probably our most unique. It's something that customers have really kind of made a little cult favorite out of too.
How do you tell a wine tastes better with age? Is it better to consume a younger wine versus an older wine, or is it just the same?
Yes. Yeah. It's either. It depends on the variety. It depends on what you like. A lot of wine tasting and is very subjective to your taste. Generally, the heartier and bigger the red wine, the more ageable it is. Those bigger red wines like your Cabernet Sauvignon, your Syrah, for us we do a Petite Syrah. They have a lot of tannin that gives you that real dry up front. The more youthful reds are going to have a little more prominent tannin feel, I guess. Feel from the tannins, I should say. And as the wine ages, that's what sort of softens and mellows out. So depending on how long they're aged in the barrel and then again in the bottle, those are things you can take home and continue to age many, many years. Most of our white wines we produce a little more on the side where they're fresh and fruit forward and light and crisp, and we like them on the younger side. With our list of reds, they are lighter to very heavy, so that can vary when you're looking at ageable years. The lighter ones, 3 to 5 years, down to the bigger, more bold reds, 10, 12 years easily on some of those that have that heavier tannin that really gives a lot of structure to the wine. And the only way to do it is practice. You gotta take them home, you gotta have one now, you gotta have one in 6 months, you gotta have one in 2 years, and see what you like. There's certain wines like a Zinfandel that I like now. I like that peppery, spicy, sort of rough around the edges style. And when it ages, it does get smoother, but it loses that kind of funky taste that I like. Where something like a Cab, it just gets that nice, rich awesomeness when it's aged a little longer. So varies a lot. Yeah, definitely.
For, I guess, the people that normally don't drink wine, what would be a wine that you would suggest for them? People just wanting to get into it.
In general, I would say people start off with some white wines. That's not always the case. There's some people that do many more reds and never really get into whites. but I always would suggest something a little lighter. From what we have available right now, something like our Pinot Gris. We do a white blend. We call it Stone Table White, and it's Pinot Grigio with a little bit of Chardonnay. It's very easy, kind of all-purpose food white. For reds, something kind of medium, maybe like a Merlot, or honestly, some of our most popular reds are our Zinfandels, and they're medium-bodied. They're great with food. They have a nice kind of fruity character to them. Not the sweetness, but that nice big sort of berry fruit, and people love that. So, we like to make it very approachable. We have the big barn, we have the vineyard, we can answer your questions. The staff is very knowledgeable, but we also want it to be a normal thing. You can bring a picnic, you can hang out, you can get a bottle of wine, we'll suggest something, taste wines, you take them home. We like it to be something that you can do every day. I always encourage people, if they're coming in and they're new to wine and learning about it, go to other wineries. When you go in your liquor store in the evening on a Friday or Saturday night, there's a distributor there pouring samples. Just try it. If you don't like it, you don't buy it, but taste it and see what you like. You're gonna find it's the only way to find out. Practice.
What is like history?
They purchased this place in 2001. We've only been open since 2002, and it was just a handful of years prior to that. They've really kind of decided to get into it as a thing. When they bought the place here, this used to be a dairy farm, and then it had been converted into a winery and vineyard back in the 70s, 80s. It had been out of business for several years, so when they purchased it, they started by taking out the old vineyard, putting in new vines, really kind of starting from scratch again, restructuring the inside here a little bit too. And then it's grown a lot over those years. People will tell us that, oh, I don't really drink wine, I drink a lot of beer. Well, that's okay, we do too. We have Thursday night concerts, which are smaller local acts out on the lawn. You bring a blanket and a picnic, you hang out, you buy a bottle of wine. Those are really fun. In the winter time, we do a lot of little bit smaller scale events because we're looking at indoors versus tinted and out on the grounds where we have more space. We do flight nights, we call them, in the winter, where we feature different vintages that we've reserved of older wines in addition to a current release. Paired with local restaurants and farmers and food for those nights. We have a winemaker's dinner. We have some music nights where we do music down in the barrel room in the winter time. So it's a big variety of things. We've really expanded events to be a year-round. Come see us outside of just the tasting room day. So it's fun. They're really, really cool. Some neat people we've worked with those. So.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Jonathan Edwards Winery is the place to be. Wine etiquette. You're apparently supposed to like cup the stem, like hold the stem. Right. You're supposed to like cup the glass because it warms with the wine. It takes away
the stem with your white. That way you keep some chill to it, and with the red too, you're not warming it up too much that way.
I never knew that.
So you hold it with the stem. Now, if you haven't tasted with all the little, swirl and sniff and sip kind of rules before, what I always suggest is sniff it first, just so you can see the difference you're making. This is a Pinot Gris, our estate Pinot Gris that I gave you to start with.
Okay.
So you get a little bit of the aroma in there. Now you're going to give it a swirl. You can do it in your hand, but if you're not comfortable with that, put it on the table and give it one of these. It'll really stay in the glass, so you can give it a big swoosh. And now give it another sniff. And really smell it. See how much it opens up. It sort of aerates a lot of the aromatic compounds in there. And I always have people smell it first, so you can really tell the difference that you're doing it.
You get more fruit. It's more of a it's almost like a really
So with each thing we taste, you'll open up. I always think that the Pinot Gris is sort of a pear, and the fresh fruit always has that real pear quality to it too. So maybe that's why that comes out to me. Now, when you sip it, most people are just going to sip it, take a few sips, and that's their tasting. What you can do, you can't really say this and do it at the same time, but the official way you might want to think about it is once you take that sip, you want to aerate the wine in your mouth. And then if you're able to, you want to give it like you see people sort of slurp it. You want to take that sip and then give it and if you're able to, then breathe that out, and you get that aroma and flavor kind of going everywhere that you can sense it. So
I think that's great. Wine etiquette 101, you guys. Jonathan Edwards Winery.
If you want to do it, I won't look at you because you're
it's okay. It's okay.
It's summer nights. Yeah, so she tries to make it.
It really gets it all going. And then it opens up a lot of those flavors. It gets it all over your taste buds. Of course, the aroma of the wine has a lot to do with the taste.
I never knew about any of this. There you go. This is why we do this. She's like, wine etiquette. I'm like, there's an etiquette for wine.
It's a little subjective, so
yeah.
If you just enjoy sipping it and tasting it, that's perfectly fine.
If you can, just briefly, just kind of instruct us the process of making wine from grapes to bottle. I'm kind of curious.
That'd be great.
About it.
It's several things. When we harvest the wine grapes, they're very, very high in sugar. I always compare it to, they're like jelly bean sweet. They taste good, but they're not what we're looking to make as a final wine. We make very dry wine. With a white wine, we put it through a crusher and a destemmer and a press, and we ferment just the juice of the white wine grape. With the red wines, it's crushed and destemmed, and it's fermented just like that. We call that must. It's like the mushy pulp. Imagine you took the grapes in your hand and squished them. You have the skins, the seeds, the pulp, the juice, all those bits and pieces. Generally, and there are some exceptions to this rule, but generally red wine grapes do not have red juice, and you're getting that color from fermenting with the skins and the seeds. You extract that color from primarily the skins of the grape. That nice, even a really deep color in your red is coming from that. We add yeast to the juice or the must. Basically, all of that sugar in those grapes acts as food for the yeast. The yeast eats up the sugar and converts it into alcohol. Since we primarily create drier wines, we're fermenting, if not all, very close to all of that sugar away. With a white wine, it's a cooler temperature, a little bit slower fermentation. With a red, it's more of a room temperature and a really quick process. Then we start thinking about how we're going to age those wines. For us, we do several white wines that are steel aged, something that's light and fresh and crisp and easy. They're kind of quick turnaround products. They're something you harvest in the fall, you're drinking them maybe the next summer or so. With our Chardonnays, we age them in oak, and with all of our red wines, we oak age them anywhere from a year with something lighter like our Cab Franc. Most of our reds you're going to see about a year and a half. Something like our Syrah gets 2.5 years in the barrel. So that varies a little bit on the variety, and year to year, of course, a little too, with how the fruit is coming in. And then we're looking at bottling it. We make about 10,000 cases of wine a year, Connecticut and California combined. Bottle them all in a little 6-bottle filler, very hands-on, cork them one at a time, label them one at a time. It's very tedious, but it makes a really nice finished product. And then we talked already a little bit about aging them. Most of our white wines are a little fresher and brighter up front. Reds range quite a bit. As we get into those, you'll taste some lighter ones and some more full-bodied ones too. We have a lot on the list and on the shelf right now, which is fun. So lots of variety.
What's like the definition of a Pinot Gris? Like what makes
Pinot Gris and Pinot Grigio are the same grape, different name. Same grape variety, just a different name based on the region and then the style that produces. So we go with tradition of the climate and the style you're getting from the climate. Pinot Gris is the original name given to the grape in France. Pinot Grigio is the Italian name for the same grape. So really we go with that. We could call it either one in either place, but since we're growing the Pinot Gris here, we go with that cooler climate, and that's the style you find in the bottle once we're finished with it. Pinot Grigio is that brighter, more fruit forward, a little bit heartier wine. For us, it's coming from the West Coast, but it's a little more similar to what you might find with some of those Italian Grigio. You find Pinot Gris from France, you find it some in this part of the country, you find it from Oregon a lot of times. California, you find a little mix of both, but oftentimes when you find it in this grape, whichever name we want to call it, coming out of Oregon, they typically go with Gris as the name from that cooler style.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. I would have never thought that Oregon would produce wine grapes.
Lots of Pinot Noir is a big crop up there. They're growing all the time. Washington State as well, both of those big time.
I have no idea. I have not been educated, everybody.
You need more wine drinking.
Yeah. I can imagine this is some French toast right here.
It could go.
How does this work?
Alright, so what you do is you take it and then you dump it in here.
Oh, that's what that's for. I'm learning new things.
So this is Pinot Grigio.
Okay.
First pour of the day is never very heavy. Once they get going, they're fine. This is California grown. We do, I would say the majority of our California grapes are coming out of Napa Valley. This one comes out of Russian River, which is more kind of the Sonoma County side. I'm interested to see what you think, because this is, these and then the Chardonnays we'll do next are that example of East-West Coast, a different, same grape, a little bit different climate, maybe very different climate, depending on the exact location, and very different end result.
Alright, you ready?
Until they're gone.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. Maybe tell Dawn, so she knows too.
Yeah, you get more, it's like a stronger aftertaste you get. Yeah, and there's also something else in there too. There's like more of a floral sense with this. Would that be right, Andie?
Yes, the aroma is more flowery. It's a little bit richer, maybe.
Yeah,
a little bit heavier flavor.
It's very sweet.
Technically, it doesn't have
No, that's fine.
but a fraction, if any, residual sugar. So the thing to think about, that's always my thing I like to talk about, is sweet versus fruity. You can have, they're independent tastes. Sweet is sugar, or dry is no sugar, or any range in between. You can have semi-dry, you can have off-dry, you can have all these semi-sweet different things. Fruit is a flavor on its own. So this would be a wine that's very fruity, but it doesn't have any sugar to it. So it's not sweet, but it has a lot of fruit. So they're two independent things to think about. A lot of times people taste fruit, they're like, oh, that's really sweet. Not really. There's no sugar. Right. So they're two unique things to think about. So what do you like between these two? Do you have a favorite one?
I like this one.
I like the other one. It's true.
It's fruitier, it's drier. But I like the fact it has like a crisp, clean taste to it. But it's very floral. You get like this floral
like different
taste.
things. That's how it goes.
Yeah. It must be hard getting this down.
When we do these, sometimes people will taste that and say, I really smell the rose, I really taste the peach. And someone will say, I don't taste that at all. So it is very much up to your nose and your taste buds.
Yeah, I really like that.
Good.
I think what I like more about this one is I feel I'm tasting like more flavors. Like the other one there was a lot, but this
That's
one
a
is
little more body and a little bit of that, those richness, those kind of arbitrary terms that we say have to do with it's just a bigger wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now we're going to do the same idea but with Chardonnays this time so that you get the comparison. With the two Chardonnays, we will start with our Connecticut Chardonnay. This one is our largest crop. Now we do Connecticut and Napa grown Chardonnay. The cool climate Chardonnay is a little brighter. You may pick up some things like some citrus, brighter, lively is a word we use in there. Both Chardonnays we age primarily in French oak. This one 8 or 9 months. We do ferment a little bit of it in the barrel, which lends a little body to that lighter wine we get here on the East Coast. It's really delicious. And just like with the Gris and the Grigio that you tried last, they're very different between the two.
Okay. And then I might have missed it. So what's defined something as a Chardonnay?
That's the grape varietal. Everything that we do, with the exception of anything that has a different name like a blend here, they are the grape varietals. So it's just like, the analogy I always tell people is it's like different apples. Think about if you put a blindfold on and picked up chunks of different apples. You would know every one of them was an apple, but they would all be different. You've got your green, like your Granny Smith is sort of tart and sour. You've got your McIntosh is a little sweet and mild. They're all different flavors characteristic to that fruit. They're all a grape. They're not grapes like you buy at the Stop and Shop. They're wine grapes. They have a lot of seeds. They have a pretty decent skin. They're not real big. They're real compact clusters. They're not that big kind of floppy cluster like I buy to eat as a snack. They're a real compact, heavy-duty thing. Those flavors that we find, if you try a whole bunch of Chardonnays, depending on where they're grown, vintage year, winemaker style, how they're aged, that's going to impact the flavor, but they're all going to have some similarities to it. So if you decide you like Pinot Grigio, you're going to have favorite ones, but you're probably going to like Pinot Grigio, because they're going to have some similar characteristics based on that fruit.
Alright, so this is the Chardonnay.
This is the Connecticut Chardonnay.
Connecticut Chardonnay.
But growing in different regions, it picks up different characteristics. Longer growing season in California, cooler climate here. So
it does have that oak taste. You kind of pick it up.
Tried first.
You picked that for me. I picked it up kind of in the beginning. Now I'm getting almost like a fruit.
Has a little bit more acid.
Yeah, fruit flavor is what I'm getting. I'm not sure if it's sweetness or fruit. I'm trying to define the difference between the two, but it feels like more of a fruit.
See how you get a little bit of a dry feel, like right in here?
Right here at the tip of the tongue.
That's more the dryness that you're going to pick up as we get into, especially the red wine.
And I'm not sure if this is the right word for it, but I feel like it's like bright almost. Like, I don't know if bright. I don't think bright is the right word.
I believe we called it lively in French.
Yeah, there you go. That's actually the word I'm like looking for, because it's definitely like when I smell it, when I'm tasting it, it's just like, it's like, wow, that's cool. It's like it's definitely lively. I like that word. That really describes it. Now, I do have a question about the wine. Now, again, I am a wine lover, but I am a newbie nonetheless.
Good.
What would be the temperature that you'd want to serve whites? and reds? 'Cause I know it varies with.
Yeah, the easy thing to do is put the whites in the fridge and do your reds at room temperature. That's what the average person is doing at home, and that's going to be close. Ideal in general, I would say in America, we serve our whites a little too cold and our reds a little too warm. Your reds, you think of the ideal is more like a cellar temperature, 55, 60 degrees maybe, and whites more like a 70, 75, or I'm sorry, the other way, more like a 40, 45, something like that. It's up to your taste too. Some people like a little bit of chill on their whites, and that gives you almost that, maybe not leave it in the fridge overnight, put it in the fridge 20 or 30 minutes before you're serving it, and it gives it kind of that cellar temperature feel. Sometimes when it's winter and we bring them up from our storage downstairs, they're at that perfect, it's just slightly cool, but it brings out some of the aromas sometimes. But it is, when they get too cold, sometimes you lose some of the big aromatic compounds and some of the taste. Sometimes when we've had them on ice, you almost want them to warm up a little bit to release a little more of the characteristics too.
Oh, okay. It does have a citrus.
Yeah.
Like you just pick up on the citrus.
I'll be interested to see what you think of the next one because they're very different. We're gonna do another Chardonnay. This is our West Coast Chardonnay grown in Napa.
Oh, okay.
Very different climate. Think about hot and sunny for a larger portion of the year. Drier,
5-year-old vine.
just like we did the Gris and the Grigio. This has that little bit more richness, a little heartier, a little more full-bodied. We also give it a little longer in the barrel, where the Connecticut we do 8 or 9 months of aging. I think with these two, I might agree with you on that. It's funny because usually I lean towards our Connecticut Chardonnay. This vintage with the Napa Chard I've really liked. So with the Grigio and the Gris, I disagreed with you, but you're not wrong. Yes, absolutely.
I know
We have a lot of people that like both.
Yeah, I definitely like them both. I feel like it would depend on what I'm in the mood for.
Yep.
It's like the
And
light
sometimes food too.
Yeah.
This is a great food wine. It has that little bit more heft and kind of richness to it, like we talked about. That's going to be great with chicken dishes, heartier seafood, a pasta with a cream sauce, because the acidity of this wine cuts through that. Think of if you have something heavy and creamy, how it kind of coats your taste buds, and this really cuts that.
Yeah.
The Connecticut Chardonnay, to me, is more like my porch sitting, nice, refreshing, lighter kind of Chardonnay to just sit and enjoy. It would pair well with lots of foods, but I would think of this as more my food wine because of the structure of it.
Yeah. Like I think of this as like either with food or maybe I'd like fill up with a book with this, whereas the other one is brighter. It's like maybe if the sun is still out.
Picnic or hanging out.
Definitely a picnic one.
Just like there's different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're like tied. But I like this one. This, like I said, this would be my porch wine.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this would be my book wine. The other one would be my picnic wine. Yeah, I wouldn't share this one with everybody. I just this is mine.
We all
Keep it on the cupboard. Exactly. Nobody would know. No, my question would be with the once you open it, how long does it
States are named after.
Generally, and I can say what we do here is if we don't use it today, we'll taste it in the morning. If it's still doing well, we'll just do today and tomorrow. So the best recommendation, if you take it home, you open a bottle tonight, drink it tonight and tomorrow. It's not going to go bad quickly to where it's going to harm you. It just really starts to affect the taste. Once you have it sitting like this open, you have oxygen on that bottle, and that's going to start to oxidize the color, the aromas, the flavors. If you taste it and it still tastes fine, it's fine. You know, the extra day or two is not going to hurt you. If you have a little bit like this hanging around, you make a great beef stew, or you do something really good in a marinade. White wines, if you keep them in the fridge, you can give them probably an extra day or two, especially on lighter whites. It's kind of up to your tastes. If they taste fine, they're fine. But they do start to lose some of the aroma, some of the nice fruit-forward characters.
Especially with the reds. I've noticed if you have them for, I think, open like the day you open it, the day after, the following day. If you try to push it back like the next day,
they do. And sometimes it's wine specific. Sometimes your big, really tannic Cabernet is almost better later that night or the next day because it's had time to open up and soften a little bit. Where something like your lighter reds or medium-bodied Zin, something like that, loses some of that upfront brightness that you like so much. So that can vary a little bit. Now, if we're ready, we'll go on to some reds. Switch the palette a little bit. We're going to start at the top of this list too with our Connecticut-grown Cabernet Franc. We talked a little bit about that down in the barrel room. This is our only estate-grown red. You can tell from looking at it right away. It's lighter body. It's aged in a barrel just about a year. Sometimes a little bit extra. depending on how it comes out. This is a 2011 vintage. That year we had a little bit more kind of rainy season. If you remember 2 falls ago, we had a hurricane, we had a tropical storm with a lot of rain. Grapes don't like that, especially when we're getting close to harvest time. So it is a little bit lighter even than our typical. But what you're gonna pick up in here, again, subjective, but it's smoky. It's got this little bit of cedar to it, maybe more like a cranberry or that type of fruit to it.
No, nope, just the same name, so we thought it'd be fun to have him here. He's been here for a few
bold
summers.
flavor, but it's not.
It's light, but it has a lot going on.
It does. Yeah.
Good.
Definitely.
Now you told me you like red wines. What kind of wines do you usually go with?
Cabernets.
Yeah.
Cabernets or the Pinot Noirs.
Okay.
I like them.
Nice. This is a little more, to me, I liken this to some of your lighter Pinot Noirs. Maybe not as heavy as you're saying, but some people that like a lighter body Pinot Noir, this is a good.
Glad you like
this
wine.
Pinot Noir is something we've never made, so even from the West Coast. But this is
okay,
kind of
this
has
would
that
be a-
earthiness
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, this is definitely, it's like light and bold at the same time. But you would never think for a red wine it would have such a light taste. Yeah, it's definitely, you would think it'd be like, boom, in your face. This is very different. Very different from what I've had before. It's like very, it starts out like very light and then it's kind of like, boom, like a light little, just hello. Like it's not like a lot of, like, I've only had, I think, one other red and it was just like, hello, like right in your face, right off.
Good. I'll be interested to see what you like at the end of it since you're new to getting into wine. It's a challenge, shall we say?
It's like it smells. It has like this like smoky aroma to it. Yeah, I like this cedar almost.
We've liked different favorite ones too, between me or them. So
Yeah, it's like Jasmine has these ones checked off, and everyone she doesn't have checked off, I have checked off. Oh, that's awesome.
So what I liked about the Zinfandel wine was the fact that it actually had this spice to it. It's a fruit flavor, but it's bold. With that being said, though, it would, for me, my personal opinion, would go really good with like red meat. I'm thinking like thick cut steaks. You can probably do it with like hamburgers and cheeseburgers. If we were going to go in terms of cheeses, I would probably go with a smoked Gouda, just because I think they would pair perfectly in terms of the fact that it's smoked Gouda offers this smoky taste to it, but yet still is subtle and it's not so strong, and I think it would pair perfectly with this type of wine. I also think you guys really need to come out here. You guys need to meet Andie. I like my reds. I am a fan of reds.
That's what I like to do.
I like red wines. I like the fact that they offer this bold, spicy, oaky, berry flavor. They're not very sweet. They're dry on the palate.
I like it when they have like deeper, richer tones, a lot more going on, just a nice flavor to it. That's what I like about this one. You get a lot more flavor. You get a lot more. Yeah, it's a lot more bold.
dessert wine because that's something very different to try.
Now, I have to ask, what would you serve the dark with?
It's more of a dessert wine. If you're familiar with a port wine, think about it. Say you've had a big dinner and
There you go.
don't want a dessert. It could be dessert by itself. It's a classic pairing is always port and chocolate. This one is made from the same grape you just tasted. It's made from Petite Syrah. It's fortified with brandy. All of the sweetness that you taste is natural grape sugar. We don't add any sugar to it. We fully ferment the regular Petite Syrah that we tasted last. That gives it that nice dry finish. So the brandy fortifies it, gives it a higher alcohol content, a little more richness and flavor, of course. And that's kind of a traditional port style, is a fortified wine. So it's really, really delicious. And it's just kind of a little specialty item. We don't distribute it much. We sell it mostly here out of the winery. We don't make a whole lot of it. It's this pretty little half bottle that you saw. But it's a neat thing to give as a gift, to have after a nice dinner. Lots of wines you'll find, you can buy them here from the winery, of course. We have an online shop which is growing. We're hoping to offer some items in addition to wine. We've always done wine online only, but you can call us, order it online, come and visit is the ideal, so that you can taste them and see what you like. We also distribute to a lot of package stores, liquor stores, restaurants, Connecticut and Rhode Island, and a little bit into Massachusetts. You can find locations on our website by county and region for you to see what's close to you.
Ready for cheers?
I did think about it because it's easier for her to because we already have that.
Very different than everything you've tried so far.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, absolutely.
Good for the end of the list. Think about the winter time, sitting by a fire, after a big dinner with some friends, having a little relaxing sitting.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So to relate to our earlier talk about the fruity and the sweet, now you see what the sweet taste is versus just the fruit flavor. Yeah.
Love it.
love it. I just want to have a bottle of this with like maraschino cherries. And that's it. Or just cherries.
Yeah.
Could do some raspberries.
Cherries, blackberries, like a cherry cheesecake.
Yeah, think about a little chocolate, a little.
I don't think Oreos would be appropriate with this, but I'm just gonna throw it out there.
I think that would be fine. I would have no problem if you told me that's what you had with it.
Cheesecake, definitely.
So tell me what some of your favorite things were. We tried a bunch of different ones. I know we didn't do everything, but we had a lot.
And that's okay. It's actually the Chardonnay Napa Valley. It's a Cab Franc. I still like the Symphony of Napa.
Okay.
Cabernet Sauvignon we had. I need everything. I need everything. I'm a horrible person. I name everything.
I was actually leaning more towards the Chardonnays and everything.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. I like the Sauvignon. That one was good. And then I think the Grigio. I like the Gris and the Grigio, but I was more towards the Grigio.
Nice. Good.
Very good.
Hope you enjoyed them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the dessert wine was definitely.
Good.
I kind of just want some cheesecake to go with it. It just sounds so phenomenal right now. That sounds like the best.
Oreo cheesecake.
No, I would like a cherry cheesecake with this. This would be
Perfect. A little raspberry sauce.
With the
Oh yeah.
Oreo.
Oh yeah.
The Oreo chocolate crisp.
The crust.
Yeah. There we go. Everything the graham. I would do the graham cracker crust with it.
You can see over here how much I was telling Jasmine what we pruned back is all of these bundles you see in the ground waiting to be picked up. The guys have been working in the Chardonnay where we just were. This is the Cab Franc, that's the red that you tasted. Okay. So here's what it looked like before, and then we're gonna take several of these and tie them down to the trellis. That's probably what they'll be doing the next couple of days. They move through them pretty quickly.
Oh cool, you have rose bushes here.
Yeah.
Is there like a reason for it? Is it
There is a tradition behind it. Nowadays, it's nice, and when we do weddings, a lot of the ceremonies are out here in the vineyard. Between imagine a bunch of benches or seats set up out looking out this way, and they're very pretty. They're really bright red when they bloom, which looks really pretty out here with all the green. The tradition behind it is that they are kind of an indicator. They don't really pull things away from the vines, but they're susceptible to a lot of the same pests and diseases as your grapevines. Okay. So if you saw something coming onto your rose bushes, you knew, oh shoot, something's gonna happen with the vines. So usually they'll get on the bushes first, and then we know. Now this vineyard plus what wraps all the way around the barn is our Chardonnay. This time of year without all of the canopy growing yet, you can see the rock wall at the end of the row. That's where the road runs between the vineyard, and you can see where it goes up along the hill. We have some more Chardonnay. We also have the Pinot Gris that you tasted, is part of that vineyard that goes across the street that way. Once it starts getting green and full, you can't really see over there. So this is a good time to really see the expanse of it. We have about 20 acres that are planted now here locally. So that produces all of our Connecticut wine.
Hey YouTubers, I'm Jasmine. This is Paula with Andie. You guys have to come down here. You have to check it out. I absolutely recommend it. Take the afternoon drive to North Stonington to Jonathan Edwards Winery. Cannot rave about it enough.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thanks for watching us. Remember, you guys, like us, subscribe us. We post every Friday on the Friday.
Every Friday. Look forward to it, guys.
Absolutely. Bye. Have a good day. It's great.
Cool.
Yay. Fun.
Fun.